Ever had me teach leadership? You know that my heart cringes not just for our world today, but particularly for tomorrow. My passion for raising authentic and visionary leaders is undeniable in all that I do. I remember 2 years ago when I first spoke about the concept of my book, The Leadership Guardian, with one of my mentors. She asked, "What do you want people to feel after reading the book?" My answer was very clear. I want the readers to be sober, become more aware of their awesomeness, and be ignited for 360 degrees transformation in every area of their life. The reviews from the independent readers of the Leadership Guardian has been overwhelming. The Leadership Guardian is truly a transformational movement for those who are tired of mediocrity and are ready to lead a 360-degree transformation in their lives. While I cannot wait for this book to grace your shelves, I most importantly cannot wait for the Leadership Guardian to grace your heart. Let me come together.
Hello, super leaders. Thank you for joining us again on Leadership Chat with Top Business Leaders. My name is Kemi Ogunkoya, and I am a leadership development strategist, management consultant, and author of the Leadership Guardian. And I equip business leaders to develop the right competence to perform effectively in their current roles and also seamlessly take on higher positions. And it is absolutely nice to have you here once again on the Leadership Chat with Top Business Leaders. The Leadership Chat with Top Business Leaders is a seasonal leadership show that helps you develop your leadership competence. On every episode of this show, I bring you top leaders with stories that inspire, principles that catalyze, and leadership strategies that will transform your life and business forever. And today I am absolutely delighted. My guest today is Adeolu Adewumi-Zer. Adeolu Adewumi-Zer is currently the Managing Director for Alliance Nigeria Insurance Limited. Alliance Nigeria is a subsidiary of the German multinational Alliance SE. She was appointed to this role in September 2022 in the wake of sustained losses at Alliance Nigeria. Adeolu was brought in to stabilize the business and lead a transformation that will shift the company onto a clear path of profitability. And within her first 16 months, Alliance significantly has grown. Adeolu is a US trained actuary and business consultant with over 2 decades of professional experience. Her career has seen her move from the USA to hold executive positions in Europe, Asia, and now Africa. She is a member of the Institute of Directors Nigeria, IOD Nigeria, the Nigerian Actuarial Society, NAS, Women in Management, Business and Public Service, WINBIS, and she combines her robust executive schedule with volunteering, coaching, and mentoring. And she aims to raise the next generation of African leaders. In addition to her responsibilities at Alliance Nigeria, Adeolu is married with 2 children, and in her spare time, she is a lifelong runner and a voracious reader and loves discovering new cultures and countries. And today I will be having a conversation with Adeolu, and we'll be talking about sustainable leadership, building the right muscles for leadership that lasts. And I cannot wait to have Adeolu right here with me. Hello, Adeolu. It is so good to have you here. Thank you so much for coming on the show. And, I have no doubt that this will be a fantastic and phenomenal learning experience. Hello, Adeolu.
Hello, Kemi. It's really awesome to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I am absolutely delighted, and I look forward to this conversation for quite a couple of weeks now. And I'm glad that we are currently having this chat. So, Adeolu, we're going to dive right into it, right? And, the
Okay.
topic is sustainable leadership. And I know that when we talk about sustainability, our mind just goes to ESG, right? And here we're talking about sustainable leadership. Now, is there anything like sustainable leadership anymore?
Well, there has to be, and it's interesting that you mentioned ESG and the SDG goals. We are actually focused on sustainability quite sincerely at Allianz. And on Monday, actually had a discussion around those topics in regards to Africa, focusing on technology. But today, we're not talking about that. Today, we want to talk about leadership, right? And
Absolutely.
sustainability leadership, which is talking really about what kind of leadership skills do you need to build a sustainable business? So I'm not talking about the normal environmental, societal governance, but really talking about business and how to create a sustainable business and really a business that is built to last. That's what we want to focus on tonight.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's really the focus for us. And I'd like us to delve into this journey of sustainable leadership. Right, we live in interesting times, and the
Certainly.
terms VUCA, VUCA, of a highly volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous business environment seems to be right in our faces every day, and then you see lots of business leaders trying to even find their feet in the middle of all the noise, the chaotic conditions, and so much more. So, how exactly are leaders, able to focus on the goals and develop leadership that can actually be termed as sustainable leadership?
Well, there's a lot of business books out there that talks about leadership generally. It talks about transformation leadership, servant leadership, coaching leadership. There's a lot of terms there, but really what it boils down to is people and leading with your heart, and realizing that the leadership focuses in the past might not work anymore in today's generation, in today's very volatile, as you mentioned, world. A world that is starting to come out of global pandemic, a world that is seeing multiple wars in our generation that we didn't expect to see. And in this kind of environment, you no longer can have the sort of leadership that might have been acceptable in the past, where it's more militaristic, more authoritative, it was more top down. And here, you really have to come down to the grassroots. You really have to come down to your people and people in general, because at the end of the day, that's what leadership is about. We're not leading robots, we're not leading machines, we are leading people. So people are, we have brains, but we also have hearts, and that's where you have to find us.
We have brains and then we have paths, and the focus has to be on the people. Now, if for some they may say, oh yes, it should be on the people. We agree it should be on the people. But then why do we have such a disconnect when it comes to really leading the people? Right? Quite a number of leaders struggle to be able to activate that human element. And it's quite understandable that there are a lot of pressures out there, the numbers, right? The reality,
Mm-hmm.
right? There has to be
Yes.
result to be delivered. So, I know that you've had vast experience, in leadership. You have been able to create transformational results. Just like as I read your bio, it's all about transformation. How have you been able to do this, right? And if there magic bullets somewhere that you have uh, been able to deploy, what exactly would you consider to be that magic element when it comes to leading and being able to find that healthy balance between the drive for numbers, drive for results, and also being able to deploy that human element that help us achieve sustainable leadership?
It's not easy because, like you said, we're running a business. We're not running a charity. So the numbers matter, but who delivers the numbers is the people. So we need to find a way to motivate our people, to motivate ourselves to deliver those numbers. And it's really about finding out how can we do that. Here at Allianz, we talk about people and performance because at the end of the day, that's really what it is. People are important, but performance is also important. So how do you meld those two together? How do you bring the two together so that the people vision is aligned with the performance vision? That's the discussion.
So finding that balance, the people and then the performance, right? People and performance. And, I absolutely agree with you that it's very important to not just be fixated on the numbers. Performance is key, and yet we also have to have the people. Now, what kind of mindset, in your experience, because you are a living experience and living testimony around this. So, what kind of mindsets actually help us get to this point where we can embrace, or I think I should start with the fact that what kind of mindset do we need to get to the point where we can actually believe that there is a fine balance between performance and people?
Listening. That's the first skill that I believe a leader needs to have, is to be able to listen to people. Leaders, many of us tend to talk too much because we feel that, okay, that's what people expect from us. They expect us to know the answers. They expect us to always know what to do. They expect us to be the loudest voice in the room. But I do believe that actually it's leading from the back. And what I mean by that is that give other people a chance to express their viewpoints, to bring their knowledge, because you don't know everything. There's a popular phrase that says, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. So you hire the good people, you hire people who know more than you in their particular expertise, and you give them the room to actually to leverage that expertise. If you know more than them, then you don't actually need them, but they know more than you, so you need them. And so then listen to the people and listen to their ideas and listen to their viewpoints and listen to their expertise. So it's really listening. That's the very first rule of transformational leadership, in my viewpoint.
Listening. And it's really interesting that a lot of times we assume we're great listeners, right? I think the skill of listening, we didn't have to put in so much effort to start to listen. A lot of people start listening right from their mother's womb, and it's very easy to just assume, what I listen. And hearing, as we know, is totally different from listening, right? It requires a level of quietness and numbness of the mind to stay focused, to be in the moment, to be mindful, and then to listen. And I'm just thinking that quite a number of people will be like, so, but I'm listening, like I pay attention, right?
Right.
So what skills exactly do we need to be able to listen, right? What skills exactly do we need as leaders to be able to listen?
So I need to be able to accept what I'm hearing, right? Because if I'm listening with the attitude that I need to give you an answer right away, or I need to respond to what you're saying, I might not actually hear what you're saying. So, and the second thing is, if I'm listening or pretending I'm listening, because I already know the answer, I think I already know the answer. So no matter what you say, I'm just going to give you an argument back. Again, I'm not listening. So acceptance is part of that. So accepting that you still have something to learn, and accepting that you might not actually have the right viewpoint, and accepting that the person might actually bring something new that you haven't thought about, that might actually change your mind if you're willing to have your mind changed.
Yeah. So coming from the place of, so I'm trying to put all of that together, and I see quite a connection with awareness. right? Because there's a level of awareness that our leaders can get to for them to appreciate the fact that they don't have all the answers and it's absolutely okay, right? That they don't know it all, and that, other people can have different perspectives, and then it's okay. I don't know. I'd like you to share with us, and I just want us to really bring it home now, and then bring it on your own journey, right? And I know that every leader goes through a journey of transformation. We don't come out fully formed, right? Irrespective of the skills and then the traits, um, hereditary or even acquired traits. We don't come out fully formed. I'd like you to take us through your journey of leadership transformation. What were those key moments for you? What were those, aha moments for you? What were those models, right, that you look up to that help you define who you want to be as a leader? I would like you to share that with us, please.
Yes. So I would say there are three key moments in my leadership journey. When I say journey, I use that very loosely because I'm starting from childhood, right? And I do believe, and people talk about that leadership, are leaders born or are they made?
Oh, yeah.
Whichever it is, the leadership skills again are not learned from books, and they start in childhood. Our leadership skill set is already we start to learn those leadership skills in childhood. And as nerdy as I was as a child, I don't think I was reading business books, and I don't think there are many children who are reading business books at 10 years of age. But at that age, you're seeing your parents, you're part of a family, you're part of your community, or you play sports. And in my leadership journey, I would focus on the sports. So I'm a long time runner, as you had mentioned, and sometimes people ask me, wait, how long have you been running, and when did you start running? I don't even remember. I just remember stories of my dad telling me that even before the age of 5, because I had so much energy, he would take me to the nearby baseball field, and he would start running, and I would just tear after him as fast as my little legs would carry me. And that's how my journey began. And so as a lifetime runner, also running for school teams and also playing basketball and other sports, leadership is always part of sports. And that's why leadership in sports is many times tied together. And there are team sports, but running is a very lonely sport. So, and leadership can also be, being a leader, especially a top leader, can also be very lonely. So some of the skill sets I learned during running around discipline, self-discipline, getting up at 4:30 in the morning to go running without anyone telling me I have to do it, or setting my personal goals, or yeah, so those are the types of skills I learned as running, as a runner. So that's the first, and that's as a child. Then fast forward to when I was living in Munich, and a manager that I had there, who I consider a mentor, and someone who really changed the way I looked at leadership. I won't mention his name here. He will know who he is if he hears this. But he's Dutch, and if you know the Dutch are very forthright in how they speak. They just speak their mind. And I tend to be much more diplomatic in the way that relate with people. So it was just interesting for me to watch, and I was 35, 36 at the time, to watch how someone was able to handle different situations in their forthrightness, and with the end goal in mind, and really saying, I don't really need you to like me, but I need you to do what you need to do to serve the customer. And I started to imbibe some of that and realize that I don't need to be liked. And actually, probably if I want to be a good leader, I can't rely on being liked, because many things that are the right things are not fun, they're not easy, and they might not be what the majority wants to do, but you still need to do them, and you need to set those rules as a leader. The third moment in my life that changed my leadership skills, or melded my leadership skills, is becoming a mother, and that's around the same age. So one of the things that same manager had told me when I told him I was pregnant was that you'll see that when you have children, becoming a parent will influence your leadership style. And I really have seen that the way that I treat my children is many times skill sets I transfer over to my colleagues and vice versa. So really building that. So those are 3 points. So as a runner, and then seeing observing someone else who was a very strong leader, and then becoming a parent. Those were the 3 points that influenced my leadership journey.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. Thank you so much for sharing, that evolution with us. Now, I'd like to ask you, Adeolu, and, we're talking about sustainable leadership, building the right muscle. Now, for each of these key moments that you have shared with us, right? Uh, it's not something you just engage with once and then you expect it to stay on with you forever, right? And just like you want to get your body toned, it won't just be one visit to the gym that does the magic, right? It would come from the place of consistency. I would come from the place of commitment. It would come from the place of clarity, and quite a number of things would also really matter in this situation. Now, what were some of those things, that help you stay grounded with these skills that you have built, even in the face of obstacles or opposition?
Yeah, so it's really having that North Star. And the North Star is not just for you as a leader and your leadership journey, but also in terms of your career development and your personal development. So I knew where I wanted to go. I knew the impact that I wanted to leave. I knew that where I wanted to be. And that's really what has influenced me. As I mentioned, self-discipline is key. Consistency is key. So, and there can't be anyone looking over your shoulder. And of course, you can have sponsorships and support groups and all those. But at the end of the day, there's no one who's going to be looking over your shoulder saying you need to do A, B, and C today, and tomorrow you need to do 1, 2, and 3, and the next day you need to do D, E, and F. It's you. And so, as long as you know where you're headed and where you want to be, then this is the motivation that will keep you going. Sorry,
That
Kemi.
is
Yes.
absolutely it, right? Where you are headed and where you want to be. Now, there's this quote by Yogi Berra, and he says that if you do not know where you are headed, you will wind up somewhere else, right? So you talk about the fact that the significance of the North Star, being able to clearly define where you want to be as a leader, and I believe that strongly that helps us anchor our roots as leaders and help us define exactly where we want to be, who we want to be, and what we need to do to actually get there. Now, how then do leaders deal with obstacles despite the knowledge of their goals, despite the knowledge of where they want to go? How exactly have you, because I know that you have crossed through so many oceans and then so many rivers, and you're here doing phenomenally well. So how exactly do leaders build that adversity quotient, if I may use that, um in those times where, yes, they have some level of understanding about where they're headed, but then they still have to deal with challenges, they still have to deal with obstacles. Do they jump over, do they clear the path? How exactly are they able to remain grounded and focused?
A word that is bandied around recently is resilience. And whatever you call it, hard-headedness, resilience, stubbornness, I've had many things thrown at me, even as a child. It's really what you need to get through it, because it's a very difficult path. Whatever you decide to where do you want to be a leader, and I do believe that leaders are everywhere, so it's not a formal title. Yes, of course we have formal leaders, but you're also a leader in many areas. I believe that everybody's a leader. So whether it's you're a leader in your company, in your team, in your community, in your family, or you're leading yourself, you're the CEO of your own life. There will be down times. There will be so many down times. This is what life is about. Life is not easy. Life it has its challenges, and it's really about looking at the past challenges you have made it through, and that giving you the encouragement that you can get past the future ones.
Right. Getting the encouragement to get through, to go over, and then to keep pushing forward. Now, I'd like us to, just a little bit step out of the place of self and now look at it from an organizational dimension, right? Because when we look at leading organizations, it goes way beyond just leading self, right? So you build the muscle of self leadership, and then you're able to build the muscle for team leadership, organizational leadership, and then talking about how you now sustain that level of leadership. Now, when we are looking at building a culture of leadership, right, that goes across every strata, every level within the organization, what exactly should leaders focus on, and how are they able to deliver this if it is even a possibility?
The cultural change is very important, and you can never underestimate the ability of culture to either further or to hinder your goals. And that's something that many very smart people overlook when they want to go through a transformation in a company, is that they again forget that we're not leading robots, that we're leading people with hearts. And if you don't have the people on board, if you're not able to change hearts and minds, that it will be very difficult, if not impossible, to get where you need to be. So it's really then enlisting all parts of the organization, setting that vision as the leader of where you need to go, but enlisting all parts of the organization. It can't just be top down. It's not completely bottom up, because everybody sort of needs to be on the same page, but it has to be a melding of the two to change that culture. And it's a continuous process. You can't say, oh, I've changed the culture, now I'm done. No, because we're lazy. Humans are lazy. So we want to regress into the old patterns, into the old habits, to the bad habits. Those are easier. And so you need to continuously, especially as a leader and all the leaders in the organization, just continue to promote the culture that you want in that organization. And as new people come in, they will sort of be brainwashed, if I can say that in a good way, into the culture that you're trying to build.
The culture is very key. Now, we have situations where the leader is clear about the culture, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they know exactly what they want. And then at that point, they're also dealing with resistance, right?
Mm-hmm.
So either in terms of introducing, a new element, new behavior, talking about a strategic change, a vision, alignment. How then are they able to get people to that point of alignment? Because you spoke about the place of communication and the flow of such communication within the organization. And then you also talk about the place of continuous engagement. So you're not just talking about it once and then leaving it there. But then, you have situations where leaders are like, oh, yeah, I have spoken about it. We continue to have engagement around it. But then I'm not getting the result. I'm not getting the level of alignment that I hope to get. How can leaders deal with such situations and then be able to come through effectively on the other side?
Yes. So having just gone through or going through, because I said it's a continuous process here at Allianz, the one thing that my team have often heard from me is that I'm here to explain. I want you to understand, and then you have to accept. So it's not about agreement. This is not a democracy. Of course, we welcome ideas. We want everyone to give their input, but at some point, a decision has to be made, and we need to move on. And as a professional, myself included, I don't agree with every decision that the organization makes. But once I have made my viewpoints clear, the decision has been made, then as part of the company, I accept the decision and I take it as my own. And this is the same thing we expect of every single colleague, whether as junior or as senior as they are. And at the end of the day, not everyone can accept. And another thing I say is that you're not a tree. So if you're not happy, then you have to leave. And so it's about either you change the people or you change the people, if you know what I mean.
Interesting. You're not a tree, right? You have to move. And talking about the movement, right? What are some of those mindsets that also have to move to get to that point where, as leaders, we can have such frank, objective conversations without having any level of, bitterness, and still be able to stay objective and true to the vision?
Hmm. So the first thing has to be trust, and that's one of our key values at Allianz is around trust. So if you haven't built trust in the organization, if you haven't given the people the feeling that they can bring the whole self to work, then it just won't work. You can't expect them to really tell you what is on their mind. So you have to really build that safety net, that security blanket, so that people know that they can trust, that they can speak their mind, and they will not be penalized for it. So that's the first thing. A second thing is that we need to really accept failure, and that's something that we really try to do at Allianz. That people will make mistakes. So either from not completely understanding what we want them to do, or for whatever reason, and so I actually like it when people are very self-motivated and they just go out and try something, and perhaps not exactly the way I would have done it. But as many times I tell my people, you're not going to kill the company. There's very few things that will kill the company. So if it's something that you think is just going to better the company, go ahead and try. And the third element I would say is that transparency. So I am one who likes to err on the side of transparency, which maybe is not something so seen in Nigeria corporate culture, but I'm very much adamant that if I've built trust, trust has to be given to be taken. So I also need to show that trust to you. So I will, we have continuous town halls and other different types of environments where I will just try to tell people as much about what's going on in the company as I can, so that people can really understand it. And it does help in understanding. If we try to block everything because we think, oh, people are not mature enough, people can't be trusted. If people can't be trusted, why are these people working at your company? That's what I always ask.
Yeah, right. All right. Thank you so much, Adeolu. And I like that you wrap that up with trust, because that seems to be a missing element. A lot of times when we lead people, we don't trust their capability. We don't trust that they will do the right thing when we're not there. We don't trust that they will do it as well as we will do it. Sometimes there's the expectation of, oh, you have worked with me for X amount of years, you should be able to reproduce results the same way I will. And, we just have quite a number of elements or things that, stand in the way of building trust within organizations. Now, can we talk about sustainable leadership that is devoid of trust? And, I ask this question because there are times where you find some level of hostility, right, within certain leadership climbs. You find a certain level of distrust within leadership climbs, and then business is still going on as usual. So is that a curve to how much trust eventually impacts the business, or how exactly are we able to find a balance between trust, ensuring that there's trust within our systems, and then creating, sustainable leadership within the system?
I firmly believe that a lack of trust and toxic cultures, if we can call them that, corporate cultures, are unsustainable. Perhaps they'll work for 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, but at some point, the company will be in disarray. And we see it's so often with various startups that are touted for being unicorns or high value, worth billions of dollars. And then all of a sudden you start hearing news of the toxic work culture, the way juniors are treated, the way women are treated, the way minorities are treated. And lo and behold, the company sort of implodes. And I do believe there's a causal reaction there, right? And so it might not be immediately, but a toxic work culture is unsustainable, and it's really trust and transparency and an open culture that will lead to a sustainable business.
Honestly, trust helps us build sustainable cultures within our organization. And, I cannot agree any less that these are really important to, build that right muscle for leadership. Now, I want us to, step out of the organizational framework and then bring it home again, right? Because I think for people to get to that point where they can actually trust people, for people to get to that point where they can take feedback, for example, which are some of the things that we have spoken about in the course of the chat, there has to be some work that has to be done on the inside, right? Because, and I say this because people have different experiences, right? I for one, know someone who used to work in a particular organization and then felt that he was constantly being abused verbally by his boss, and then he left the organization. A few years later, started out his own organization, and then became very abusive to his own employees. High turnover rates, and they got to a point where they realized that they couldn't continue that way. So you find situations like that where leaders, in the course of nature, in the course of nurture, they pick on certain beliefs, certain perspectives, based on probably what has happened to them in the past, what they have experienced, what they have believed. And for that reason, they're not able to move themselves forward. They're not able to move the organization forward. And, when you look at it in certain crimes, certain cultures, certain environment, you can see that, such behaviors may really be prevalent. How exactly does a leader get to the point where they can assess themselves from the place of objectivity? They can have honest and truthful conversation with themselves that will lead to growth, and they can deal with some of these, issues that we just spoke about.
That's probably the toughest thing to do as a leader, because who do you talk to? Particularly if you're at the top of the organization, there's really probably no one in the organization where you can really be that honest, and who is also willing to be that honest with you. Particularly in a hierarchical society, who dare, quote unquote, to challenge you and to say, yeah, you're not being a very good person at this point. And this is why many top leaders have coaches, right? And an executive coach, and this is the person, just like top athletes have coaches. And for some reason, we think in business that to be top, it's a sign of weakness to have a coach, which doesn't really follow, right? But if you look at many of these top CEOs, they have executive coaches that command very high rates. If you look at a Marshall Goldman or someone like that, very high rates, because they're so vital. They're that sounding board to people who have very few people they can talk to, and who can hold up the mirror and saying, you're doing A, it's not working. Perhaps you should try to do B.
Interesting. So having such systems or mechanisms in place can significantly, help leaders step into the place of awareness, especially like you have said, when we consider hierarchical systems, and where you find out that people may not be willing to really share as much truth as possible. Now we have a question, and this question is about how leaders can handle pressure in a situation where they have personal issues bothering them from home. How are they able to manage this at work without transferring aggression onto others? I think that's a really valid question.
It's a very interesting question, and really everyone has to find that way for themselves, uh, because you need to be able to compartmentalize. You can't take, as a leader, you don't have the luxury to take your home life into your work life. From that standpoint, I mean, in terms of negative feelings from home into work, and vice versa. I would say probably your partner would also not appreciate that if you had a bad day at work and then you transfer to them. And so each of us need to find that way to release the pressure. For me, it's running on a regular basis. That my me time. Also, I like to joke about my Friday Netflix and chocolate Friday nights. So you need to find that your way. Some people like to garden, some people travel, some people talk to their best friend, but you need to find that way to release the pressures, right? Because if you don't find a way to release the pressures, we're only human. One day we will just explode.
Releasing the pressure, otherwise, one day we will explode. Absolutely great and fantastic time with you, Adeolu. Uh, we have touched on quite a lot. Great conversations, in-depth conversations, reflective conversations, and I'm sure that everyone who has listened or will listen to this episode will definitely have so much to take home. You are a remarkable leader. You're able to transform lives. You're able to transform, your business. You're able to transform cultures. As we wrap up the session, Adeolu, there's just one thing that you want everyone who listens to this to take home today. What would that be?
I would like to leave the audience with one quote, which touches me every time I read it. And that's from John Quincy Adams, where he said, "If your actions inspire others to dream more, to learn more, to do more, and become more, you are a leader." So this is the one I take with me on a daily basis.
Incredible, incredible. So there is definitely a responsibility that comes with leadership. And, like you said, when we started today, leadership is definitely beyond a position. So we all have to see ourselves as leaders and step into that place of duty and responsibility. I do. It has been a fantastic time with you. Thank you for sharing with us so passionately. Thank you for, just pouring these insights out and sharing with us so vulnerably. I absolutely had a great time, and I'm sure that everyone who listened in and who would listen to the show would also have so much of insights to take home with them. So thank you so much, Adeolu, and I definitely look forward to seeing you soon again.
Thanks for the invite. Bye-bye.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, guys, it has been a great time of learning. It has been a great time of transformation. Like I always say, you want to make sure you turn your insights into actions and start running with these lessons today. So till we come your way again, thank you so much for joining the show. I look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Till then, keep leading, keep inspiring, keep becoming a better leader. Thank you so much. See you.